That's somebody else as well who was trying to get information
The
out
whole
of me.
time.
Yes, for the past year. I can name his name because it was amazing. I don't remember his last name. His name was Bruno, and he was trying constantly.
Because he suspected something
Yes.
that was sus.
Yes. That man had been under suspicion for years and years and years and years, but no one was saying anything. And people didn't feel like they could do anything because there was no real facts. So this man was working me. The sports psychologist was helping me at the same time, was trying to groom me into saying something. And finally, I said, I want to meet you. And he was like, okay, cool, whenever. Like, I think he knew that I was going to say something. So he was like, oh my God, like, clean my schedule. Like, so the day after I met him, and I didn't take much. It took like 5 minutes. And I started crying, and I told him everything. He was like, I was like, do you think I should stop training with him? And he was like, what? Of course. Like, you're not even seeing this man ever again. Like, no. And then I started crying, and I was just like, oh, but I'm not going to be good. And, you know, I was, even then, even if I knew that he was, and the sports psychologist was like, he's a predator. Like, he's a bad person. Like, you know, and I was still like, oh, but I'm never going to be good. And I was still in that mindset. But at the same time, I said, we need to tell everyone. Like, right away I said, we need to tell everyone, because I knew he was grooming other younger girls, and I did not want these younger girls to go through what I was going through. So to me that was, and then it was like the round of going, and then I told my parents on that night, and they believed me right away, which I'm very, very grateful for. My dad right away believed me, and he was mad. And before he was arrested, because we firstly went to a few lawyers, and then to see what was my options and blah blah blah. Went officially to the police, and I found another girl who also, one of my friend I learned also had been abused by him. She was younger than me, and she was under, I think, 14, under the consent age. I'm not sure.
Was this because you spoke up and she saw that you came out?
I had not spoken out yet. I just spoke with my coaches at the National Center, which were extremely, extremely helpful. Absolutely helpful. And no, I will never think. That's that point as well that I felt very bad for how I had been treating them for the past couple of years. Because they were so supportive. They could have been like, oh, you were crap with us for the past 2 years. Do your own thing. No, they were extremely supportive, and they directed me towards her. They were like, I have some doubts that might be, or somebody directed me towards her, and I knew her because we had been skating in the same club since like a long, long time. So I went to her and I told her, and she was like, oh my God, yes, it happened to me as well. And she was 2-3 years younger than me. So it really helped, the whole thing, because she was under the consent age. So there's an age under which whatever is done is not legal because they're too young. I don't remember. I think it was 14 or 16. Not too sure.
So above that age, it becomes sort of like a gray area.
Yeah, exactly. So with her, we knew for sure we had a conviction. As for me, there was a lot of he said, she said. Because I was 17, yes, but under 18 is still not. But because he was in position of authority on us, then there was something. But you know, and a lot of the things that he did to me were considered rape. So like when putting his weight on me, using dildos, and like all these things were considered rape. So there was some pretty big accusations in there, but a lot of them were he said, she said. So it took a few weeks before they arrested him. So before that, like I had to tell my story like 10 times, and then the police as well were absolutely amazing. I had a wonderful experience with a female police that believed me from the beginning, and that was just so nurturing and nice. I had the best experience with police and lawyers, so that was great. And then finally, when he got arrested, that was like, because I didn't have to fake anymore. Because all of a sudden, I had to not take his emails, not take his phone calls ever, and that was a bit weird. So he knew that something was happening, because they were like, no, don't talk to him, and he was going in at the rink as well. And my dad had to do like nothing happened, which was
pretty tough, I'm
pretty
sure.
tough. Oh my god, my dad was like, oh, yeah, it was really, really hard for him. But yeah, we had to do as if nothing happened, but at the same time, he knew that something was happening. So finally, he got arrested. I got the phone call, and right away it was on the news, because he was kind of a well-known figure in the character in short track speed skating. And short track speed skating is a pretty important sport in Quebec and in Canada, because we perform very well at the Olympic Games in that sport. And his son was an amazing athlete, so it attracted a lot of, and sadly they used his son as like the father of, and which really broke my heart, and which that was another reason why it took me a long time to come out, because I loved his son, not as a lover, but he was like my big brother. He would take me, sometimes we'd go on rides and would listen to music together, and it was such like him and his father are completely different people, and I didn't want to hurt him, and it was so, to me, I didn't want to lose him as a friend, and unfortunately, yes, I did lose him as a friend, which I totally understand. I completely, the man did that to his family, but I felt at this time that I had completely broken his family, and some people told me that. A girl told me that I broke his family. And another thing, when he got arrested and he was awaiting trial, he was using, because he didn't have, he had an order,
restraining order.
There was a restraining order with me and the other victim, but he was using other people that still stayed with him. He was using them to intimidate me at the rink. So in
that sense, those were his supporters.
Yeah, and he had parents as well, parents of young girls who believed him. Most parents pulled out their kids from his care and pulled out, and believed me 100%. I had people, I made the round. I said something I personally made sure to do. I made the round to parents who had young girls with him and told them exactly what I knew and what he had done to me, just so they wouldn't. But there's some parents that I did exactly that. Like, I was a 19-year-old girl who came to them and they didn't believe me. And they were still leaving the young girl in his care. So these people were doing, so he was probably having meetings with them or something. Like, what are we doing today to piss Emilie off? So at competitions, some of them would sit up when I was skating and just give me looks. I'd have a girl who, because I had broken up with my boyfriend back then a long time ago, but first love, we still had kind of feelings for each other, so we were still talking, and she started talking to him and hitting on him, and so to make me sad, and she knew that there was everything they could do to try and mess up with me, they would. Every day I was getting something different. So at the end of the day, after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore, and I quit at the end when I was I think I did one season that I was going through all of this, and after that, that was it. It was too much. I just couldn't be around this. But at the same time, I'm still so thankful for the national team coaches that were outstanding.
And I'm sure many girls were thankful of you coming out.
Oh, and I had so much support. Most of the skaters were amazing. I had a skater, a national team skater, coming to me and crying and saying he was sorry. And I was like, why? And he was like, I knew something was wrong with that man. I knew it. I had suspicions for years and years and years and years that he was abusing girls, and I never said anything. And I was like, you had no proof, and I was like, thank you, but you had no proof. Do not feel bad. And I had many when I said something as well, I got emails from skaters, and mostly males, that were like, thank you so much for what you've done, and it was, I was very touched. Especially, it's surprising, but especially a lot of guys were completely And yeah, like they were thanking me, and I had so much support. The federation in general was pretty supportive as well. It bugged me because they had to call him the alleged, that he's innocent until proven guilty, and there was this whole. It hurts. I know that this is the
law.
This is the law, and a person is in our system. A person is innocent until proven guilty. But I tell you, as a victim, like this is talking just with my emotions. As a victim, it hurts because it's like we don't believe you, and it's really hard in the system as well. And everything needs to be proven, and it's he said, she said. So,
and I guess that's why we are doing this video right now, because this really struck a chord.
Oh, absolutely. And I was lucky enough that the evidence were huge on him, and it was getting pretty. They found evidence. I think they found the dildo that he was like using on me, and they put some swab on it. I don't know exactly the evidence, but they had a lot of evidence against him. So eventually there was a plea agreement, so he pleaded guilty to reduced charges. So we took some out from me. It was mostly charges on me, like the highest charges on me, like the rape charges, and some that were a bit more like when he tried to penetrate me and everything. They had to take that out because they had no real proof. And because we still have the proof on the younger girl and everything, so he pleaded guilty, and so we didn't have to go through a trial. We just had to go and see him plead guilty, and then I had to go to court and basically tell the judge how this abuse influence affected my life. So that's something that I did, but probably only twice I had to go to talk, and then the judge gave his verdict, not his, like the sentence. And it was so spot on. The judge, we were so lucky to get such an amazing judge who just saw through him, saw through the manipulation, and just read. I remember when he read his verdict, and he was like, not his verdict, but his sentence. But before the sentence, he just read and said that he was a very manipulative person, that he took advantage of sensitivity, or he just really hit the nail on. And yeah, so he gave him, I think, 8 months. So we're in Quebec. This is usually we're pretty lenient on sentences. So we were quite surprised. We were not expecting jail time at all. So we were quite happy with that. I think we knew that it was not going to stay the whole sentence behind bars, but it was already quite good to know that he was not just going to stay at home or something. It's just, it just shows, and I think it gave a precedent to show that, it's still punishable, and it's still not just
a slap on the wrist.
Exactly. And so he did go to jail because I remember receiving a phone call after 3 months and saying like, okay, so he's being released. This is the conditions he's under. So I couldn't approach me, blah blah blah. And he never tried to contact me after that. So I was quite lucky. I think that the biggest sentence. Okay, so this is the sentence that he got from the judge, from the justice system, which I do believe that he deserved more. But look at precedents. I think it was good. But the biggest sentence that he got is the social sentence. So basically, he had the speed skating world is very tight-knit in Canada, and especially in Quebec, and he had no business whatsoever in rinks, in skating rinks anymore. So we knew that a lot of people were on my side, and that if he would be to show up at a skating competition, somebody would shoot him out. Like there would always be a dad out there that knew my dad or that knew me that would be like, no, you're out. And I've got stories of friends who shamed him in public, who said like, oh yeah, apparently there's a guy like little girls, when they were in restaurants. It's probably not the best thing to take justice between your hands, but I think this was more hurtful to him
than the actual sentence.
Than the actual 3 months in prison.
So I guess, just wrapping up, what is your message to girls out there who may actually be facing abuse at some level?
I would say it's easy. I just say something, talk. Most of the time, you will have support. I know that there's stories of people. Talk. keep as much proof as well as possible. So for me, I erased some of his emails because I was so disgusted. It would have put a lot more weight to mine. So I was very lucky that there was, but keep everything you can as proof. So if he writes you things, if you just keep everything and say something right away.
And these days as well, I mean, you have your iPhone and your voice recorders and things like that. You know, if you need to, and if you are facing abuse,
it's so much easier now.
Put your voice recorder on, put it on, put your phone on, put your camera on spy mode or something like that. Yeah. Capture it if you have to.
Absolutely. Now it's even easier to catch someone. If you, yes, it was, okay, I have to admit it was a stressful experience, but I am so happy. I need to say as well that we estimate that before me, and this is just an estimate numbers, he must have abused 15 other people, because apparently there was also boys, not only girls, but that's just hearsay, but at least 15 people in 15 years before me were abused, and they didn't say anything. I am not angry at all at these people, because I know how manipulative he is, and how he must have made them believe that they would be pariahs of the speed skating world, that no one, because he was always very proud of being friends with the referees and friends with the national federation and blah blah blah, just to make you believe that if you say anything, you'll be no one and you'll be forgotten in speed skating and your career is finished. So I can understand that these people didn't talk before me, but for me, I don't know if I'm special or anyway, but to me, I think I could not believe that another girl would have to go through that. And I think it's the biggest message there. Save yourself and also save other girls as well. You still have, it's never too late. Say something, save other girls from, because they keep on praying. It's if one goes, they will replace. Like, so I knew that, because if I was going, that he would replace me if I was not saying anything and just try and minimize damage.
It'll just go on and on.
Oh, absolutely.
And on.
Like it's been for at least 15 years, and he already had a few girls out there like that he was preparing, and I knew it. And yes, there's nothing. And when I look back, some people might have said, like my dad used to say, I think you sacrificed your career, because eventually I had to quit skating and my last year was really tough, and my dad always said you sacrifice your career for that, and which is honorable, but I don't think
it wasn't a sacrifice.
I mean, I don't think I was Olympic material, to be honest. I don't think anything, I was not aggressive enough, I was not, anyways, it would have ended in some way, and so we never know. And I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I wouldn't be running up mountains and doing a sport I absolutely love. It's just life in general. And I am so happy that I might have saved a few girls from going through what I went through. So say something. You'll always be surprised on how many people will take your side and will believe you. There's always be some there in how many girls girls and boys you're saving.